The afternoon sun filtered through the large windows of Bella's flower shop, casting dancing shadows across the vibrant displays of chrysanthemums, daisies, and roses that filled every corner of the small storefront. The air was thick with the perfume of fresh blooms, sweet jasmine, earthy eucalyptus, and the delicate fragrance of baby's breath that seemed to wrap around visitors like a gentle embrace. What happened next would leave everyone completely speechless. Margaret Bella had owned the flower shop for 37 years, watching the neighborhood change around her as new buildings rose and old ones fell. Through it all, her little corner shop had remained a constant, a place where love was expressed through carefully chosen bouquets, where grief found comfort in funeral arrangements, and where ordinary moments became special with the simple addition of fresh flowers. On this particular Thursday afternoon in late October, Margaret was arranging a display of autumn flowers when she noticed a small figure standing outside her window. A young boy, perhaps 7 or 8 years old, was pressed against the glass, his breath fogging the window as he stared intently at the roses displayed in the front case. The boy was alone, dressed in clothes that had seen better days, a faded Superman t-shirt with a small hole near the hem, jeans with patches on the knees, and sneakers that had been carefully cleaned but couldn't hide their age. His dark hair was neatly combed, and despite his worn appearance, there was something about his posture that spoke of careful upbringing and quiet dignity. Margaret watched as the boy counted something in his small hands, coins, she realized, as the afternoon light caught the glint of pennies and nickels. His lips moved silently as he tallied his treasure, his face scrunched in concentration. After several minutes, the boy took a deep breath and pushed open the door, causing the little bell above the entrance to chime softly. "Hello there," Margaret said warmly, setting down her pruning shears. "Can I help you with something?" The boy approached the counter hesitantly, his small hands clutching his coins. "How much do roses cost?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Margaret smiled gently. "Well, that depends. What kind of roses are you looking for, sweetheart?" "Red ones," the boy said immediately. "The prettiest red ones you have. They're for my mom." "I see. And how many roses were you thinking?" The boy opened his hands, revealing a collection of coins that Margaret quickly estimated to be less than $3. "I have $2.67, he said proudly. "Is that enough for some pretty roses?" Margaret's heart tightened. A single rose cost more than what the boy had saved, but she could see the hope and determination in his eyes. Before she could respond, the bell chimed again, and another customer entered. The man who walked in was tall and lean, dressed simply in dark jeans and a black t-shirt. He moved with an understated grace, and despite his casual appearance, there was something about his presence that seemed to fill the small space. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and his face bore the kind of weathered handsomeness that came from someone who'd experienced life fully. Margaret recognized him immediately. It was impossible not to recognize Keanu Reeves, even in her small neighborhood flower shop. But she also recognized something else in his expression as he glanced at the young boy. Genuine interest and concern. "Please, don't let me interrupt," Keanu said quietly, moving to browse the arrangements along the far wall. The boy looked up at the new customer briefly, then turned back to Margaret with renewed urgency. "So can I get roses for my money?" Margaret knelt down to the boy's level. "What's your name, honey?" "Danny," the boy replied. "Danny Martinez." "Well, Danny, those are beautiful roses you're looking at. Can you tell me a little bit about why you want to buy them for your mom?" Danny's face lit up with a mixture of excitement and sadness that made Margaret's chest ache. "Tomorrow is her birthday, and I want to give her something special. She loves roses. She used to have a garden full of them before we had to move to the apartment." From across the shop, Keanu had quietly moved closer, pretending to examine a display of orchids, but clearly listening to the conversation. Something in the boy's voice had captured his attention completely. "That's very sweet of you, Danny," Margaret said gently, "but I'm afraid roses cost a bit more than what you have saved." Danny's face fell, but he didn't give up. "What about just one rose? One really pretty one?" Margaret glanced at Keanu, who had stopped pretending to shop and was now openly watching the exchange. Their eyes met for a moment, and she saw something in his expression that made her heart skip. "You know what, Danny?" Keanu said, stepping forward. "I was just thinking about buying some flowers myself. Maybe we could work something out." Danny looked up at the tall stranger with curiosity but no fear. "What kind of work?" Keanu knelt down, bringing himself to Danny's eye level. "Well, I was thinking about getting a dozen roses, but that's probably too many for just me. What if we went in together? You could get roses for your mom, and I could get some for, well, for someone special too." Danny's eyes widened. "You mean like partners?" "Exactly like partners," Keanu said with a warm smile. "What do you think?" "But I only have $2.67, Danny said honestly. "That's perfect," Keanu replied seriously. "That's exactly the amount I need from a partner for this particular flower deal." Margaret watched the exchange with growing emotion, seeing how naturally Keanu had found a way to help without making the boy feel like he was receiving charity. She cleared her throat softly. "For two business partners buying roses together, I think I can make a special arrangement," she said. "How about a beautiful bouquet of 6 red roses with some baby's breath and fern? That would be perfect for a mother's birthday." Danny's face broke into the biggest smile Margaret had seen all day. "Really? 6 roses?" "Really," Keanu confirmed, pulling out his wallet. "But first, I'd like to know more about your mom's birthday. What's she like?" As Margaret began preparing the bouquet, Danny's enthusiasm bubbled over. "She's the best mom in the whole world. She works 2 jobs so we can have our apartment, and she always makes sure I have everything I need for school. She tells me stories every night, even when she's really tired. And she sings while she cooks. She has the prettiest voice." "She sounds amazing," Keanu said genuinely. "What kind of work does she do?" "She cleans offices at night, and during the day she works at the grocery store," Danny explained proudly. "She says hard work never hurt anybody, and that we should always be grateful for what we have." Margaret paused in her arrangement, moved by the boy's obvious love and admiration for his mother. Keanu was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "Your mom sounds like a very wise woman," he said finally, "and you sound like a son she can be proud of." Danny beamed at the compliment. "I try to be good so she doesn't have to worry about me. She worries about everything, money, and whether I'm eating enough and if I'm happy. But I am happy. I just wish she could be happy too." "What makes you think she's not happy?" Keanu asked gently. Danny's expression grew serious. "Sometimes I hear her crying at night when she thinks I'm asleep, and she looks so tired all the time. I think she misses our old house and Daddy." The simple statement hung in the air like a delicate soap bubble, beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. Margaret found herself blinking back tears as she continued working on the bouquet. "Where is your daddy now?" Keanu asked softly. "He's in heaven," Danny replied matter-of-factly. "He was a soldier, and he got hurt really bad in Afghanistan. Mommy says he's watching over us, but I think she's lonely without him." Keanu was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working as he processed the boy's words. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. "How long ago did your daddy go to heaven?" 2 years ago. I was 6 then. Mommy says he was a hero, but I just miss him. He used to bring her roses all the time, red ones just like these." Margaret had to set down her scissors and wipe her eyes. The bouquet was taking shape beautifully, but her hands were trembling slightly as she worked. "That's why you wanted red roses specifically," Keanu said, understanding dawning in his voice. Danny nodded vigorously. "Daddy always said red roses mean I love you in flower language. I want Mom to know that even though Daddy can't bring her roses anymore, I can, at least once." The weight of the boy's love and grief settled over the small shop like a gentle blanket. Keanu stood slowly, running a hand through his hair as he struggled with his own emotions. "Danny," he said quietly, "would you mind if I asked you something?" "Sure. What would make your mom really happy? If you could give her anything in the world for her birthday, what would it be?" Danny didn't hesitate. "I'd want her to not have to work so hard. I'd want her to be able to sleep at night without crying, and I'd want her to have roses in a garden again, like she used to." Margaret finished the bouquet and held it up for Danny to see. The 6 red roses were perfect, full blooms with velvety petals surrounded by delicate baby's breath and soft fern fronds, all wrapped in elegant white paper with a red ribbon. "Oh," Danny breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." "It really is," Keanu agreed, but he was looking at Danny, not the flowers. As Margaret rang up the purchase, Keanu quietly handed her several bills, far more than the bouquet cost. She looked at him questioningly, and he shook his head almost imperceptibly, indicating she should keep the change. "Danny," he said, "I was wondering if you'd like to be my partner in something else too." "What kind of something else?" Keanu seemed to choose his words carefully. "Well, I was thinking that a mom who works as hard as yours does might enjoy having her birthday be extra special this year. What if we could arrange for her to have a day where she didn't have to worry about anything?" Danny looked confused but intrigued. "How?" "What if I told you I know some people who might be able to help? People who could make sure your mom could take a day off work without losing any money, and maybe even arrange for some other nice surprises." "You mean like a birthday party?" "Something like that," Keanu said with a smile. "But first, I'd need to talk to your mom and make sure it's okay with her. Would that be all right?" Danny nodded enthusiastically, then paused. "But why would you want to help us? You don't even know us." Keanu knelt down again, his expression serious and kind. "Do you know what I've learned in my life, Danny? I've learned that sometimes the universe puts people in our path exactly when we need them. Today, I needed to meet someone who reminded me what real love looks like. The kind of love that saves up every penny to buy roses. The kind of love that wants to take care of someone else, even when you're just a kid yourself. You reminded me of that." "But what did I remind you about you?" Danny asked with the directness that only children possess. Keanu was quiet for a moment, his eyes distant. "You reminded me that I have the ability to help people, and that when you can help, you should. Your dad was a hero who served his country, and your mom is a hero who's raising an amazing son. Heroes deserve to be taken care of sometimes, too." Margaret watched this exchange with tears streaming down her face, understanding that she was witnessing something extraordinary, not just a famous actor being kind, but a human being recognizing another human being's worth and responding with pure generosity. "So what do you say, partner?" Keanu asked, extending his hand to Danny. "Want to help me plan the best birthday surprise ever?" Danny shook Keanu's hand solemnly. "Yes, sir, but I still want to give her the roses myself." "Of course," Keanu laughed. "Those roses are from you. Everything else is just friends helping friends." As they prepared to leave the flower shop, Danny clutching his precious bouquet, Keanu turned to Margaret. "Thank you for letting me be part of this." "Thank you for reminding me why I love this job," Margaret replied, wiping her eyes. "Take care of that boy." "I think he's going to take care of all of us," Keanu said softly. 3 days later, Margaret received a phone call that would stay with her for the rest of her life. It was Danny's mother, Elena Martinez, calling to thank her for the beautiful roses her son had brought home. "I don't understand what happened," Elena said, her voice thick with tears. "Danny came home with these gorgeous roses, talking about a nice man who helped him buy them. But then the next day, my supervisor at the grocery store said someone had arranged for me to have paid time off, and someone paid my rent for the next 6 months. And there's a college fund that's been set up for Danny. I don't understand who would do something like this." Margaret smiled, remembering the quiet conversation she'd witnessed between Keanu and Danny after they'd left her shop, and the phone calls that had followed. "Sometimes," she said gently, "kindness comes from unexpected places. The important thing is that you have a son who loves you enough to save every penny he had to buy you roses." "Those roses," Elena whispered, "they're the most beautiful roses I've ever seen. Danny said they mean 'I love you' in flower language, just like his daddy used to say. Your son is a very special boy. I know, and somehow he found a very special friend." Margaret had kept in touch with the Martinez family over the months that followed. Danny's mother had been able to reduce her work hours and spend more time with her son. Danny had joined a local youth soccer league, his registration and equipment mysteriously paid for by an anonymous donor. Elena had even started taking night classes at the community college, working toward a degree in nursing. But perhaps most importantly, Elena had started smiling again. The crushing weight of financial desperation had been lifted, allowing her natural joy and strength to resurface. She still worked hard, but now she worked with hope instead of desperation. 6 months after that day in the flower shop, Margaret was arranging a spring display when the bell chimed. She looked up to see Danny Martinez walking in, but this time he wasn't alone. Beside him was a young woman who could only be his mother, the same dark eyes, the same warm smile, the same quiet dignity that had marked her son. "Mrs. Bella?" Danny called out. "I brought my mom to meet you." Elena Martinez approached the counter with tears in her eyes. "I've wanted to thank you for so long, for the roses, for your kindness to Danny, for being part of something that changed our lives." "Oh, sweetheart," Margaret said, coming around the counter to embrace the young woman. "I was just doing what anyone would do." "No," Elena said firmly. "You were doing what good people do. Danny told me about the man who helped him that day, how gentle and kind he was. He still talks about it, about having a partner who helped him get roses for me." Danny nodded enthusiastically. "And guess what, Mrs. Bella? Mom's birthday is next week, and I saved up enough money to buy her roses all by myself this time." Margaret's heart swelled with pride and joy. "Well then, we'd better pick out the most beautiful roses in the shop." As they walked toward the display case, Elena took Margaret's arm gently. "Can I ask you something? Danny's mysterious partner, was he really who I think he was?" Margaret smiled. "Does it matter?" Elena considered this for a moment. "No," she said finally. "What matters is that a kind person saw my son's love for me and decided to honor it. What matters is that someone reminded me that there are still good people in the world, people who help for no reason other than because they can." "And what matters," Danny added, pressing his face against the glass case just as he had months before, "is that I can keep buying Mom roses, just like Daddy used to." Margaret watched as mother and son selected the perfect bouquet together, 6 red roses, just like before, but this time paid for entirely with Danny's carefully saved allowance money. Alina had insisted on giving Danny an allowance for his help with household chores, wanting him to learn the value of work and the joy of earning something for himself. As they prepared to leave, Alina turned back to Margaret one more time. "Please, if you ever see our mysterious friend again, tell him that his kindness didn't just help us survive, it helped us remember how to live." Margaret nodded, knowing that she would probably never see Keanu Reeves in her flower shop again, but also knowing that she would never forget the afternoon when she witnessed pure kindness in action. That evening, as Margaret closed up the shop, she found herself thinking about the ripple effects of compassion. A famous actor had seen a young boy's love for his mother and had responded with extraordinary generosity. But the real miracle wasn't the money or the paid time off or the college fund. It was the reminder that love, when recognized and honored, has the power to change everything. Danny Martinez had walked into her flower shop with less than $3 and a heart full of love. He'd left with roses for his mother. But more importantly, he'd left with the knowledge that the world was full of people who would see his love and choose to celebrate it. 6 months later, Elena Martinez had graduated from her nursing program and found a job at the local children's hospital. Danny had grown 3 inches and joined the honor roll at his school. And every month, without fail, he came into Bella's flower shop to buy his mother roses with his own money. Margaret had learned something that day too, that kindness was contagious, that witnessing genuine love reminded people of their own capacity for generosity, and that sometimes the most extraordinary acts of compassion grew from the simplest moments of human connection. The afternoon sun continued to filter through her windows, casting the same dancing shadows across her displays of flowers. But now, every time she saw a child counting coins or a customer choosing roses for someone they loved, she remembered Danny Martinez and his mysterious partner. And she was reminded once again that the world was full of hidden kindnesses, waiting to bloom like flowers in the spring. And sometimes, late in the afternoon when the light was just right, Margaret could swear she smelled the ghost of those perfect red roses, the ones that had meant "I love you" in flower language. The ones that had reminded everyone who witnessed them that love, when it's pure and true, has the power to move mountains, change lives, and restore faith in the fundamental goodness of humanity. In the end, that was the real gift, not the money or the security, but the reminder that we are all connected, that kindness matters, and that sometimes, when we least expect it, a stranger becomes an angel. And a simple bouquet of roses becomes the symbol of everything that's beautiful and good in the world.